Okay, good morning. And thanks for joining me, you guys. Um, every morning when I wake up, I tap in and I feel what's going on. And for several mornings in a row now, I have, well, it's been going on for a long time. Life has been really crazy, as it is for everybody, but it's been particularly, I think, even more so for me. I've had less time available to work on myself, which has been good, which means we're busy at the studio and things are moving along. I'm training new people and all that kind of stuff. So it's all good. But sometimes even when life gets busy and stressful, it's a good stress, but it still affects our bodies. So I thought I would just come on here and share what I do, part of what I do in a day when I wake up and I'm feeling it everywhere. It took a lot of years for me to get really good at feeling my body. And I think this is what I see the most in my patients is that trying to connect and feel what's going on is for many people a completely new concept. And we really have to start there. And for me, it starts first thing in the morning when I wake up. And instead of letting the feelings in my body take over, I make a choice to change what I'm feeling. In other words, not by shutting off, but by actually tuning in and then finding something to do to change it. So if you think about it, we're mostly water, 70% water, right? And what that means to me is that we can change the way that water is presenting. And it kind of hit me the analogy. I look out my back window at my pond every day, and some days it's like glass, and other days I can swear I can see white caps on it, And we are similar inside. And what we do with our bodies, how we move our bodies can change that water, but also how we think can change that because we are very, very high tech electrical beings. And, we just kind of don't pay attention to that, but we have energy flowing through us all the time through that fluid medium in which our body is, right? So why not use that to our benefit to feel better? That's kind of the way that I think about it. So when I wake up in the morning, I was so today I was just feeling it all over my body, but especially on the right side, and sometimes even like almost a burning or a tingling, and not tingling in necessarily a good way, but it as a way to kind of I feel like it's showing me areas of my body that have more compression going on. So I would first invite you, and I'm just going to lie down and start doing some of the things that I do in bed. And if you can join me, that's great because you want to feel what's going on in you. Now, I'm going to be explaining what's going on in me, of course, but let that be an opportunity for you to explore what's going on inside of your own body. So before I or actually lie down and start going, I'm going to put some essential oils on. I don't talk about essential oils enough. I use them all the time. And probably should start sharing that more with people. I just happened to pick something called Relieve It, and then Clarity also. Um, Peace and Calming is a great one that I use, but anything to help kind of start this process. Oils are have frequencies, like everything has a frequency to it. So I want to increase my frequency. A higher frequency is basically better. We don't need to go into all of that. Just know that anything that we can do to anything that makes us feel better helps make us feel more like love. And it's funny because I was looking at my little pillow here. If anything that helps us feel more love and less like depression or anger or fear or questioning things or oh my goodness type of a thing, that's a love would be a higher frequency. Okay, all of those lower feelings and thoughts are a low frequency. So I'm kind of starting with that and put my do not disturb on here. I'm just going to take some deep breaths. And while I do this, I just want to check in and ask, do either of you have any thoughts or questions? And does this make sense? Is this resonating with you? Looking for some music here. Does anybody want to share any discomfort that they might have right now? And that's okay if you don't. I just need to take a minute. Some background noise on here. Okay. Okay, so I am going to ask you both to turn your, or actually I can do it. I'm going to mute you. If you want to say something, feel free to unmute you just so that it will keep my voice on the screen as the speaker, because we know how Zoom is. The other thing I'm going to do is put my awesome toes on. These are wonderful little tools to help spread my toes apart and begin this process of opening up the bones in my feet, taking up the slack, and beginning that whole process in my feet. You know, a lot of times we ignore our feet and our hands, and how silly, right? Because they're so important. But we're going to do some more with these in a minute with our feet. But let's just start out lying down. Let's say we start out, you're waking up in the morning. Oh, good. You guys can see me good. And you wake up, and let's say you're in this, sort of fetal position or whatever, and it's like, oh, I don't know, I got to start moving, right? So even here, think about an animal, a dog or cat, when they wake up in the morning or throughout the day, really. My cats sleep all day long. They start to move their bodies a lot. My cat, he's so funny. Yes, the other day he was laying on his back with his front legs stretched out. And I want you to do that. Just kind of start to lengthen your body just organically. Don't worry about a certain protocol. Just start to move around. Oh, like maybe when you go to move your lower body, your pelvis, it hurts maybe in your low back. But instead of freaking out about that, allow yourself to tune into, oh, wow, that's kind of sore there. And what I'm talking about doing, this is connecting with your body. I talk about the calm technique. Take this time to start to connect to your body. Just start to really feel what's going on here. Take some long, slow, deep breaths. Connecting to the breath, connecting to the movement of the body. Maybe move your arms a little bit. Maybe lift your chest up, press your head back, just move around. If you don't know what to do, think of starting with your hands and feet and just do some circles and move them. Notice, does one side feel different than the other? And then let your arm come down and just kind of roll your arms in and out. And maybe roll your legs in and out. Now, as I'm doing this right now, I really feel my right, it's not really my shoulder, but in front of the shoulder. Like if you think of the right side of my chest and up to where my shoulder is, that feels totally different there. And now I'm going to lift my right shoulder up toward the ceiling and then drop it down. Lift my left shoulder up to the ceiling and drop it down. And keep doing that. And notice if you feel a difference from one side to the other. This is continuing into this calm technique at assessment. We're also figuring out like what's moving. We're assessing it. Okay. We're testing it out. Roll the arms in and out. Maybe you even need to bend the elbows and straighten them. And let's lift the arm up a little bit and do that. And fully extend the wrists and bend this in. Open and bend the elbows and bend the wrists. Close the fingers and then open the fingers, extend the wrist, extend the elbows. Now let's add some circles. How does that movement feel? Now let's go into reaching. Let the arms relax down. Now we're going to listen a little more here. So we just did some active movement. How does your body feel just lying here after that movement? Can you feel a difference? And let's bring attention to the legs. Let's assess them. Can we roll them in and roll them out? Roll them in and roll them out. Oh, wow. When I roll my right leg in, it feels a lot different than my left. It's much tighter in the hip joint. Come here, Sneakle. I was hoping a kitty would show up. And now place your hands on the front of your pelvis. And you may feel these little bumps here that are this Bodhi landmark we call the ASIS. And just place your palm on that area. So I like to even put that little bump in the palm, very center of my hand, so I can really feel. And your fingertips are on the pubic bone, the palm of your hand is on those ASIS points. And tune into that triangle. And what I want you to do is think of reaching your left leg away and reaching your right leg away. Now, I talk about the leg lengtheners where I pull the toes back and I actively lengthen, reaching with the heel. And I think that helps people understand a little bit, you're lengthening, you're kind of tuning into the heel. But you don't have to do it that way. You can, if it's easy enough for you, you can just reach the leg away. Now, reach the left leg, reach the right leg, and notice under your palms how your pelvis is moving. And if it's not, see if you can reach a little bit more to tug into that a little bit more. And notice, does one side feel different than the other? And let's listen a little deeper here. So you'll notice we're using movement, we're using MCALM, connecting, assessing, listening to our bodies, and moving our bodies. So when I reach to the right, I can tell it doesn't move the same. I can reach further. When I reach with my left, that side of my pelvis goes further away, but it's not even the distance only, it's the quality of that movement. It's much easier to get it there. When I tune into the right side, not only does it not move as much, but it's kind of more sticky, if that makes sense. It's more sludgy. And I also feel it as I'm listening deeper. So when I'm doing the calm technique, I think of assessment as like a left-brained activity, right? It's more objective and what John would call channel 5, right? More in our head. When I think of listening, I'm thinking channel 3, or more of that intuitive feeling side, more connected to my heart, not my head. So as I listen to what's going on in the left side of my pelvis, I can actually sense that it's thick or stuck all into the left side of the bowl of my pelvis. My hip is included, my low back, my sacrum, and even up toward my right rib cage. So I'm going to lengthen a little bit longer now, actually quite a bit longer. I'm going to stay lengthened on that right side because what I'm doing is I'm taking up the slack of that tissue. And I can take up the slack of the left side too, but the right side's got something going on. There's something wrong there. And I want to open that space. So I'm lengthening my right leg still just to the barrier. And oh man, I can really feel that deep, like in the organs of that side. And it's not pain or anything, but it's a sensation of tightness, a tad of discomfort. I can feel it pulling into my low back, like the sacrum, which is the bone that the tailbone is a part of. And it's a good feeling. It's like this needs to open up. And we know that if we take up that slack and we hold it consistently for preferably 3 to 5 minutes, even longer if it's an area that's really stuck, the tissue will start to change. My other cat wanted to come in, but she saw him here and she wasn't happy about that. Mittens. So taking a breath and feeling into it. And the thing is, when we do this from the inside of our body, we want to be constant. If I let up on this lengthening, then I kind of got to start that time process all over again. So I'm just going to stay lengthened here. So mind you, I've been up for a while today, but in the morning, I might not do all those movements with my arms up and all that. I just go right to here. I start lengthening. And then I'm going to take my arm. Now my wall is in the way here, but I'm going to pretend my arm is straight and do like a snow angel. Slide my arm out and up. And if your arm starts to come up off of the floor, the bed, wherever you are, then that's where you stop. I can get my arm overhead, so I'm going to lengthen my arm away. My lower body is still lengthening. It's still going constant. Now I'm lengthening my right arm, my right shoulder, my shoulder blade. I'm going to tune into my right rib cage and I'm going to lengthen here. Wow, that changes what I feel in the pelvis. Isn't that interesting? Because it's all connected, right? So I'm still lengthening my right leg. Breathing, relaxing into that. And my hand on top of my pelvis here, I'm feeling that go down toward my foot. And if I put my hand on my right rib cage, it helps me tune into that a little more. So I'm going to think of also lengthening my right rib cage up toward my arm. Now, maybe you're doing this on your left. Doesn't matter. You pick the side that's tighter. And if they're both the same, then just pick one. And then you can do them both. So I'm going to quiet down now and really feel into this. Allow yourself to notice how you emotionally feel about what's going on in your body, or maybe just what's coming up. I'm feeling some emotion coming up into my chest. Now, let me share with you, we're capable of pushing that down. And right now I'm going to, because I'm teaching, right? If I was not teaching right now, I could go into some emotion that's popping up for me. I don't have to know what it's about. I'm just giving my body an opportunity to feel it. Feeling that allows us to let it go. The sensation in my sacrum is changing even more. My legs are kind of rolling in on their own, and that's the movement, right? That's the CALM. I am noticing that my leg is wanting to roll in both of them, and I'm just letting them do that. And kind of feeling a movement go up my spine now. Just kind of a wave. I'm going to place my left hand on top of my belly. And if you can get on skin, it's even better. But I feel that if I move my belly away from that right hip, I'll get into there even more. I'm still lengthening with my right leg and my right arm. Pelvis is moving up toward the ceiling. I'm just going to go with it. Getting into some unwinding here. The body is opening up that tightness. As I'm lengthening this right leg, it's really changing. It's getting longer. The sensation in my sacrum and low back is changing. So my right arm, my fingers, my wrist, my elbow, my shoulder blade, my rib cage are all gently lengthening away from my waist. My heel, my knee, my thigh, my hip, my pelvis are all lengthening away from my waist. And my left hand is on my belly, pulling away from the right side toward the center, opening up that space. Now, everybody has a different fascial restriction pattern, right? So I'm hoping that you're just noticing into what you're feeling in your body there. And now I'm going to go ahead and relax that lengthening. I'm going to bring my arm down and I'm going to go back to my assessment again, place my hands on the pelvis and go side to side, lengthen, lengthen. And that's way better on the right. Wow, big difference. Okay, so now we've done just some still things. I'm going to go into some more movement. And in myofascial release, we talk about myofascial rebounding. And if you think of the fluid in the body, again, we're going to use this rebounding to move us around and get that fluid moving, which can also help to soften some tightness in the fascia, particularly in the elastic component. It can, that movement does come up against those more restricted collagenous areas that aren't going to budge with movement, but it can help release some that might be open to that because we're also getting energy flowing when we do this. So we've already done this sort of lengthening thing, feeling it with our pelvis. So just do it a little faster. Notice how I'm making these little jiggles. And you might start slow. You might reach, 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 and then shorten it up and make it faster. And notice as I'm doing this, it's making my head move and my arms, and I'm gonna just tune in and breathe. Like a fish out of water. Just keep jiggling it. Now, if you're getting fatigued from doing this, you can stop, of course. I'm gonna go a little bit longer. I kind of actively add my shoulders in, and roll my arms around, and as I'm doing this, I can kind of tell what part of my body doesn't want to move as much either. You might notice it's harder to roll one leg, or your head and neck won't go to one side. Oh, and slowing it down. And whenever I stop rebounding like that, I feel this tingly all over my body. Enjoy that. And breathe now low down into your belly. Let the belly expand with your inhale. So I'm going to do a few more things that we can do in bed with no tools at all. And let's have you bend your knees and make your feet wider apart. We're just going to go side to side and tune into your shoulders. Let's keep those shoulder blades on the ground, on the bed if you're in bed. And as you let your knees go back and forth, turn your head opposite the knees. Now let's start paying attention. Which side goes easier? I feel a lot more when I go to the left because my right tight side, I'm feeling it. You might feel the hips are different. Maybe the neck is different. And we're just going to pick a side and hold it there. I'm going to go to the left. You'll notice my knees are wider apart. So it's different than just like knees together. Make your knees wide apart. And there's a reason here. If you take the leg that's on top, so if you're going to the left, it would be the right leg. That leg is wider apart than the left. I want you to think about that right knee and lengthening the right knee away, like you're trying to reach somebody over there with your knee. When you do that, you'll feel it pull up into the pelvis. You might feel it in your thigh. You might feel it in your hamstring. I don't know where you're going to feel it because everybody's different. But as I lengthen through that area, the lengthening changes what I'm feeling. And that's what I want you to pay attention to. Notice the tightness there. The position is trying to straighten out the hip joint. Most people are tight in their hip right here in front. So as we lengthen that way, we're opening it up, and turn your head and look the opposite way. I'm reaching now with my elbow, keeping my shoulder on the ground, the shoulder blade on the ground, reaching my elbow away from my body. Thinking about my head and lengthening the crown of my head away from my knee. So I'm lengthening, elongating. Breathe. Slowing down the breath. Coming out of the position if it's too much for you. Remember, this is about feeling good. We don't ever force, but we allow. But you got to stay there long enough sometimes to get it to fully allow. Understand that when we hold a position, it's just different than movement. It's, the movement gets things going, but when we actually hold it, we're tapping into that tissue that needs time to change shape. Now let's go to the other side. Bring the knees over, knees are wider apart, and reach and lengthen now. I'm doing my left knee, turning my head to the left, but my knees are going to the right. So it doesn't matter which side you're doing. Just turn your head opposite the direction that the knees are pointing. Breathe. Reaching that knee away from the waist. I'm reaching my elbow away from the waist. Tuning into my rib cage, lengthening my rib cage away. We have a tendency to get hung up thinking about the muscles and our bones, but notice what's between all of this, the core of our body and all of the organs here. So I kind of take it for granted that I feel this and think this. So I'm just going to start teaching more about everything else that's going on. I can feel deep in my core here, my organs are being lengthened and opened here, which is good, right? I want to bring more fluid flow. Every organ is within fascia. So fascia going through every cell of the body, it's going through every organ. It's like the organs also have, it's like they're in a fascial sac, okay? And these sacs are all connected, so it's not separate, but anything that's affecting my leg and my knee, my thigh, my hip is also pulling up into me as a woman, my female organs, but also the intestines, the bladder, all of it up into even the stomach and the liver, the gallbladder, all of these areas you're affecting by lengthening into your body. And breathe. It's one of my favorite ways to open the front of my hip. With the knee bent, it's taking up more slack into the front thigh and coming all the way up. There are many different ways to open into here, but when I'm sleepy in the morning, I want to do something that's the least energy causing, you could say. And then let's bring the knees back to center. Place your hands on your pelvis again and think of that triangle and just tilt it up and down. So I'm not lifting my butt up. It's just a tilting of the pelvis. Now, for a lot of people, their low back is really solidified. That's tightness of the tissue over years. So do what you can in tilting and notice which direction is easier and which is harder. So if I have my hands, there's the triangle on my pelvis, think of the point, and straight down would be your tailbone. tilt it so that that point goes up toward the ceiling. Now notice as you do this, when you smash down or the point goes up, is your belly going up? Because we don't want that. We want the belly to go down towards your spine as the point of that triangle goes up, okay? So think about that and notice your ribs too. I often will place my thumbs up toward my ribs, and you don't want your ribs to splay open toward the ceiling either as you smash the back down. So just be aware, notice what is happening there. As I arch my back or my point goes down, yes, the ribs come up, but all of this area is connected and I'm paying attention to all of it. So going down and up. And we're just working on motion here. We're not worried about, tapping into muscles and all that right now. Now, the hand on the pelvis, remember how we were reaching the legs. So our legs aren't down, but let's kind of move the pelvis that way too. So side to side to side. So my pelvis, the right side is reaching up and then the left side is reaching up back and forth. So we can go side to side and then we can tilt it, point up, point down. And now just kind of make some circles with that. Move your pelvis all around. And sadly, so many of the patients that I see, they're so stuck in the pelvis, right? We get so stuck in the low back because of our lifestyles. We do so much sitting and we don't move the vertebrae in the spine. Ideally, each vertebrae should be able to move on its own. Instead, we have sections that are all moving together, right? So think of that when you're here. Try to get those areas all to move and loosen up. And maybe you might feel a little soreness doing that. I do. I feel soreness doing this right now because I'm so far behind on a lot of my real specific self-treatment that I'm feeling. I have a lot of scar tissue going down in my abdomen here from C-sections and other surgeries. So it's all pulling in toward my spine and especially my sacrum. So as I'm loosening this up, I feel it. It's a soreness. Most people would call it a soreness. Some might call it a pain. For me, I like to think of it as a sensation. I'm connected to my body. I'm communicating with it. I'm paying attention to what's going on there. To me, it's a flag saying, hey, this needs some attention, right? So now that we've moved that all around and loosened things up a bit, let's also straighten out one leg and bring the other knee in. And let's test the movement of that hip. And let's go the other way. I want you to be connected to your body in a way that you're paying attention to what these movements are doing. So many times, I mean, I've taught, thousands of classes over the years and aerobics classes and all that fitness stuff. And we just like plow through it, we didn't pay attention to what was happening. And this is just such good information. Pay attention to how this hip is moving, and now let's compare it to the other side. So bring both knees in, straighten the one we just did, and let's move this one around. What do you notice? When I do this with patients and I'm assessing their hip range of motion and they're like, the lights come on like, oh, wow, that one doesn't move very well. It's like the first time they've done it, Like, what if you did this every day and you could tell, wow, this side's getting a little tight, right? So you can do something about it. That's the whole idea. Connect, assess, listen to the body, and move it into a position that's going to help, or do some movements that will help. Now this one is it's tighter for me, and I'm going just intuitive now. I feel like, wow, this hip needs me to do this. It feels good to hold here. So I'm going to hold my knee out to the side a little bit. I'm going to lengthen now my left leg that's straight. I'm going to lengthen my left leg while I'm bringing this knee out to the side. It's kind of tapping into that tightness there. And I might even take my hand and put it on my belly, preferably on the skin, to kind of pull that away from that hip joint. And now my left foot is still lengthening away. I can really feel that. I can feel it even into my right rib cage in the back. Where do you feel what you're doing? And then if you find an area that's like, wow, that's tight there, can you lengthen something, some part of your body away from that area to kind of tap into it more? Maybe it's the other arm. Maybe it's your head and neck. So think of lengthening the crown of your head away from your waist. So I felt some change there. Just reminding my body how to move out to that way. Now I'm going to bring it back to center. Both knees in, and I'm just going to move side to side. It's almost like the floor massaging onto my low back and circling my knees one way and then the other. And so before I put my legs down, I'm going to tune into my toes again. If we moved every joint in our body, its full range of motion from the time we were born, barring any injury, we'd be able to keep moving our joints, its full range of motion. How many joints in your body are tight, right? It's because we didn't maintain that mobility and that motion. So I'm moving my toes all around and now pointing and flexing my feet. And circle, I got some snap, crackle, popping going on there. Circling the other way. We already moved our hips, right? So straighten the knees and bend the knees. And maybe you can only do one at a time. That's okay too. If your legs are tight, need to lower them down. Feel that on the back body. Reach the heel away. Reach the heel away. And let's bring the legs down. Moving the fingers again. You know, we do all of this flexion work with our hands. We bend and bend. So just opening the fingers. And reaching. Just finding all kinds of different movements. The elbows, of course, just bend and extend. Reaching the arms and shoulders around. And let's tune into the head and neck and turn the head and neck. And I've got tightness in my neck today, big time. So I'm going to take my hands behind my neck right now and just, I'm like clasping my fingers behind. Oh, Snickle, you're so cute. Isn't he a sweetie? Yeah. And as I do that, my palms of my hand, I want to compress them together into the sides of my neck. And so, oh, that feels really good. Can you see what I'm doing? I'm just compressing my hands and lengthening the crown of my head away. And I'm just going to be quiet for a little bit. Just breathe in. Not forcing, just stopping at the barrier. Notice if one side feels different than the other. I'm just going to share that just with that breath, I'm feeling emotion coming up in my heart center area. Only because I'm tuned into it, I'm paying attention, I'm connected. So many times I believe we have emotions surface, and in our modern worlds and our lifestyles that we have, we just stuff it back down. We just ignore it. Give yourself permission to feel what emotion is surfacing from your body. You can notice where it's coming from, and you can imagine as you breathe in, just imagine breathing a white, pure light of love to that space. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's okay too. As you continue to pay attention to your body and feel it and self-treat it, and be open to the idea that we are emotional beings, you might start to feel that, which is a good thing. So my neck is finally starting to soften a little bit. So just then, my pelvis started to move as my neck is softening here a little bit. Very slightly, my pelvis is rocking back and forth. So that's that connectedness, the fascia from head to toe through every cell, but especially down through the spine. And I'm just going to let it move. If I'm feeling almost like a sadness surface. I have a lot of a lot of my emotion that comes up is sadness. My whole life, actually. And so I'm just going to allow myself, I'm saying to myself, it's okay to feel sad. It doesn't have to be about any one particular thing. I'm just letting myself experience that. It's okay to feel the sadness, and it's okay to let it go. The pelvis movement has slowed down, and my lengthening my head still away from my chest. Okay, now I'm moving my head back. Oh, that feels a lot better. Now it's just that rotation, quite a bit different. Okay, I'm gonna have you open and close your mouth a couple times. So open wide and close and notice the quality. You can even put your hands on either side of your jaw. Open and close and notice the quality of that movement. Does your jaw feel tight at all? Does it feel like it's different from one side to the other? And then you can even open it halfway and move your jaw side to side, like move your chin to the right and the left. Notice if there's any tightness there. So you can take your hands, and I like to take my fingertips, the pads of my fingers, and I start like along the side of my eye, and I move down. So I'm like right below the cheekbone area, but back toward my ear. So the finger is actually touching the ear. For me, it's right where the hole in the ear is. And that kind of comes across to the cheekbone. Everybody's a little different, but you're not on the bone, you're just below the bone. Hi, Snickle. Hi. And compressing in and down towards your feet, and just I feel that all the way up to the top of my head. So there was a lot of several weeks last year I had to do this every morning just to get my mouth to open more than the width of a finger after my cycling accident. And if you really tune into this, you might feel it all the way to the back of your head. My right side feels tighter. You might notice one side is tighter than the other. I'm going to invite you now to create in your own mind a scenario where you feel so vibrant and alive and good in your body, like just with energy and no pain, no discomfort, and just happiness and excitement. We all know that feeling. There's something in our lives. If we look back and think about, oh, and I just had so much hope about something, or I just felt good about accomplishing something, or just, create either a memory in your mind, but it doesn't have to be a certain event, but just how it felt inside you. Joy, excitement, feel good, and choose to feel good now, even if you have to pretend it. When we pretend and create a positive, beautiful feeling in our conscious mind, we're choosing that over what the subconscious mind wants to pull us into. The subconscious runs 95% of what we do, but we can steer this ship, this human ship, with our conscious mind and create the idea of feeling good now. And let yourself feel the joy, smile on your face, a lightness throughout your whole body. And on the days that I do not feel that way, when I wake up, I go through, even if it's a 5-minute little self-treatment thing and get my body moving, and I realize that I have the conscious decision to make to feel good now and create my day, even if I have no idea how it's going to happen because of how I feel right now when I wake up. I just imagine it anyway. And I remember that my body is water. And like my pond, it might be turbulent and whitecaps one moment, but another moment it can be like glass. And since I'm driving this ship, I can choose what I do with it. And if I know things that will help me feel better and create a better day that I can do, then I'm going to choose that. But I might have to pretend a whole lot first before I can get myself going. And every single time, it has worked to feel better when I connect to my being and I assess and I listen and I move and I choose things that I know and that I feel that will help me feel better and feel good. Couple of nice, long, deep breaths. Let your hands move wherever they want on your head. Rolling over onto your belly. You know, I see so many people who have a really hard time getting on their belly because they just quit doing it, you know? And it's something we should never quit doing. We should always get on our belly every day, even if it's just for a moment, to open up this part of our body and to move. So it's just a couple minutes past 9 o'clock. So just doing a nice child pose here to open up my back. So this whole day, and really kind of every day, I will tune into always, what is my body telling me and what can I do about it right now if there's something I can do, even if I'm working and I'm around the table finding different positions for my body and tapping into that and open them up. Here's another thing that I do every morning in the mirror when I'm like, I swish with oil. I do oil pulling from my mouth in the morning. And while I'm doing that, I first get up and I check my shoulders. Do they move? And the right side for me is always tight, tighter than the left. Sometimes they're both tight. But look at that collarbone and see if it moves for you. We need that to move, right? So even compressing down, you should be able to go down some from neutral. My right side doesn't do it so well. So I'm always working on this. Partially because I'm right-handed, I'm always going like this at work, right? But just tune into that and get some movement going. So throughout the winter, maybe not every Sunday, but I am going to be doing something most Sundays, self-care Sunday, and it will probably be free. It's what I need to do for me, and I'm just sharing with you. There's way more that I do. So when I'm done with this, I'm actually going to do probably a little bit of melt rolling on my feet, and I'm going to go outside for a nice long walk. I might do a cold plunge after that. We'll have to see. And then tonight, I'm going to be doing a full series of hip strap stretches and legs up the wall. Probably not as long as I would sometimes do because I can't do all of that in an hour, but at least I'll get started with it. So if you want to join me for that, it'll be the same length. Of course, on the recording, this will already gone. That will be recorded by then, and then you can watch it too. So does anybody have any questions or anything that you'd like to add or say, and let me know if this was helpful or if you have questions that others might help others as well. And if not, I will stop the recording.
Oh
So
yeah,
remember,
that was a good session there. It was worth it for me just for the when you're laying on your back and doing the bent knee hip rotations right and left. That was dramatic on my left side. So that alone was worth the hour.
yeah,
So that
good.
was really effective, and that's something I'll do often now.
Yeah. Yeah, like that's exactly what I'm hoping is that people will find things that you can do, every day. Little simple things that, I take for granted. I just do because my body's telling me to do it. But if you can learn a technique like that you can add, you'll be amazed. So remember what it felt like today, because over time, and this doesn't happen, in 2 weeks, right? This is a long-term thing. Our body adapts to what we do and what we don't do. So as we continue to do things that will help to change in a positive way, you'll feel the change. So that's great. Thanks for sharing that, Chuck.
Yeah, that left side was really tight. I couldn't hardly even rotate it at first, but then
Yeah.
I think
So is
what I tend to do is I think I tend to rush everything rather than taking the time and uh,
yeah,
so this helps me get the time frame right.
right. And I have a question. Did you realize before that your left leg was or hip was that much tighter at all by chance?
My lower left back has always got an issue, but I didn't realize it was that bad until I started to rotate it and I couldn't. So I just
Okay.
went slow with slower motions, and then like 5 minutes, I could do the whole thing. Whether that's just sleeping on my side or whatever the heck, but accumulated years. But so that was
Exactly.
awesome, and
It's
I'll do
years.
that
Yeah.
every morning now because I always wake up a little bit like hunchback, you know. But that helped.
Yeah. Great, great. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that and keep moving and don't forget your calm technique and feel good now, right? Remember, you guys, you're creating tomorrow's body today, right? All
Uh,
right. Have a great day.
okay, bye bye.